TNA Sacrifice. Yes, TNA Sacrifice streamed, and it was one of the special pay-per-views that they throw for their TNA insiders and their TNA Plus members. It was a solid show. Now, I will say off the bat that it wasn't better than No Surrender that aired a couple weeks ago, but nevertheless, it was still a solid show. The opening, started off a little rough with all the technical issues. I don't know, something was happening on the streaming end, which, I've only been a member through the YouTube subscription, the Insiders subscription for only, I don't know, a couple weeks or not, about a month or so. And that was the first time I had any type of issues with the streaming. So not sure what was going on. Maybe it was YouTube's fault, but yeah, it definitely hampered the first two matches, which was the opening match with Nick Nemeth, formerly Dolph Ziggler, and Steve Macklin. So the streaming issues back and forth. So I got to see as much as I could see without all the interruptions. Long story short, Nick Nemeth wins in a solid match against Macklin. Macklin took this crazy dive, like this crazy bump where he had Nick Nemeth. It's so hard to remember this guy's name. I'm so used to calling him Dolph Ziggler. Nemeth. He had him hanging upside down on the turnbuckle at the corner, and he proceeded to just go. He must have went full speed to try to go and spear him, I guess, or I don't know what he was trying to do, but Nemeth pulled himself up at the last second, and he just went straight through the turnbuckle all the way into the timekeeper, underneath the timekeeper table. Like, it was a crazy spot, but it looked pretty good. It worked well with the match and the psychology of the match and how they were going back and forth. But Nemeth wins with the zigzag. I don't know what he calls it now. Forgot what he calls it, but he wins. Technicals, difficulties aside, solid match. Yeah, I think the next match was ABC versus Edwards and Myers of the System. Now, this is another good solid tag team match. These two tag teams had some pretty good chemistry going back and forth. A lot of distractions, of course. With the System, you're going to have some distractions. But long story short, they win the tag team championships. It was setting up to be a System night. And obviously, when your top guy, Moose, is the world champion, and then your tag team, they got to have some gold too. So it was just a matter of time before they had to achieve that. And they did that at Sacrifice. So solid match. ABC goes down. Edwards and Myers of the System. New tag champions. Next segment, PCO versus Khan. I believe PCO Khan was after this. Not sure. I'm kind of trying to get through the card. Now I think I was tough. I think I was a little tough on PCO. I think I kind of been a little too dismissive. I'm like, this is pro wrestling. There's the circus aspect of wrestling as well as the athleticism and all that other stuff. And this is, the circus aspect of it. It can also be entertaining. Now, to be fair, I didn't know much about PCO until recently. So now I'm like, oh, okay, his character is this, Frankenstein from Quebec, all this other stuff. But then I was educated. It was probably by a user, and they were saying he's from the Quebecers from the 90s. And I remember the old WWF when the Quebecers were a tag team and they were feuding against the Hart Foundation. So to still see this guy in his mid-50s, late 50s, active like this, doing moonsaults onto piles of chairs and all of this other crazy stuff and doing all of these bumps on stage, this is impressive. He is kind of a Frankenstein. He is a freak. So I had him all wrong, man. Like, I think I'm pro PCO now. Definitely. So PCO won the match, got his revenge from their last encounter and No Surrender. It was just two big guys beating the hell out of each other. Sometimes you need this on the card, and that's what we got. So PCO wins. Now, the women's knockout match was probably the worst match on the card as far as how it was booked. I didn't like how it was executed. So you got the tag team champions, MK Ultra, who just beat um Decay for the tag championships at No Surrender, literally like a couple weeks ago. And they're a dominant tag team. I mean, these with Masha Slamovich in there, and and I might see her later this month. From a side note, but she's just she's in all types of promotions. If you follow her, she's an ass kicker, and you tag her up with the other girl, and you got a pretty good solid tag team of women ass kickers. So they went into the match against this new tag team called Spitfire. Spitfire. But and they proceeded to beat the hell out of them for like majority of the match. It was like a few minutes, and then out of nowhere somebody hit a move and then did a roll up thing, and it wasn't even executed all the way right, and boom, that's it. Spitfire are new knockout tag team champions. Like, and it's like, what? So I don't know. I didn't get it. I didn't like how it was executed. I guess this is gonna lead to some kind of blow off with a 3-way trios for the tag team when they add in Decay. So I'm pretty sure they're gonna get that kind of blow off. And when you add Spitfire to a blow off, you might have a nice time there. So I had to throw that joke in there. Hammerstone versus Alexander. Now, these two got some good chemistry. I didn't know much about, again, it's another admission of mine, because I don't know everything. I am learning as I go. And I learned about Hammerstone. I guess he's from MLW, and he was a big acquisition for TNA, and he already had a great match with Josh Alexander, excuse me. And they had another great matchup. These two definitely have chemistry. And I will say this about Hammerstone. He, as juiced up as he looks, I don't know if he's juicing, as is a joke, but as big as he is, you would think he would blow up a lot more in the ring as far as losing his his endurance and stamina. But he kind of has a little bit of stamina. Like, these guys had a good pace throughout the match, and the ref took a bump. It was a ref bump, and Hammerstone turned heel and kicked Josh Alexander right in the cojones. And then he proceeded to hit his awesome finisher. I can't remember the name of it, but it is awesome. I never seen it before, but it took the victory. Took his little ear muff thingies and he put them around his bicep and said, "Yeah, it's my time now." So they're gonna have a chapter 3, and that's gonna be awesome. Maybe that one will have a stipulation, and if you add a stipulation to Josh Alexander versus Hammerstone, yeah, it's gonna be a war. So I'm definitely interested to seeing the continuation of that feud. Now that Hammerstone is a heel, full blown heel now. So that was good stuff there. So yeah, Jordan Grace versus Tasha Steelz versus Zaya Brookside. Two young. This is pretty much Jordan showcasing two young up and comers. And it's important for your champion to do that in such a light division. And I said this, and I'm gonna keep saying it ad nauseum when it comes to Jordan Grace, like, and even people like Moose. Like, it's gonna be important for TNA to keep giving them a steady diet of credible competitors, credible opponents, because they're so good, they're so special. You need to have somebody else that's at least comparable to them on the other side at some point. But nevertheless, this was an excellent match. It was an excellent match. A lot of spots. Grace took this bump on the outside of the ring that was nasty. She takes a lot of bumps, by the way. That's kind of nasty sometimes. And you'd be like, oh, don't, so, because Lord forbid you, or God forbid you would want any of these mega stars, especially like their champions for the company, to get some kind of freak injuries. So the spots, it's kind of dangerous, but she's real good, man. She'd make the girls look great throughout the match. She ends up winning with her finisher, and this is all building up for their eventual feud, her eventual feud between Ash by Elegance. and then Jordan Grace. Those two are on a collision course at some point, maybe at Rebellion in April. Who knows? On to Time Machine versus Mustafa Ali and the Grizzled Vets. Another solid match. I mean, it was a trios match, and yeah, I mean, Mustafa Ali wins the match with some outside interference. This was kind of overbooked, of course, TNA style. So many people running in and out, and you know you're gonna get that with TNA from time to time. But you know the team wins. Ali and Grizzle Vets, Young Vets win. This obviously continues the storyline between Ali and Sabin for their eventual rematch at some point down the road. And yeah, that's what you got. World Championship time. Moose. 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 Eric Young versus Moose was another solid match. I like Moose's matches. Moose is very, very reminiscent of those stars that understands the psychology and pacing of a match. Roman Reigns, another one where you could slow the match down and tell a story, engage the audience. He did that several times throughout the match, flipping the audience off, telling them to shut the F up, all kind of stuff. Moose was in full heel character tonight, and it was great. Eric Young got a lot of spots in. It was so many power drivers that he gave Moose. Moose can sell with the best of them. I mean, for a guy as big as he is, the way he sells for his opponents is just incredible. You know, I wish a lot more guys in the industry would sell like Moose and because it makes it more convincing. You know, when you do devastating moves or have moves done to you that are devastating, you want the crowd to at least feel like it's a little real, even when it's not. So as these two went back and forth, they, of course, more outside interference. The system came down. They weren't at the ring the whole match until later in the match when they felt that Moose was in trouble. And then the system comes down because they want to protect Eric Young, of course, him being a TNA legend and so forth. You know, I'm not the biggest Eric Young fan, admittedly. I think Moose should be having a lot more better competitors to go up against. But right now, this is what he has until he eventually gets to guys like Nick Nemeth and other bigger stars. So Moose wins, spear, good night. On to the next. So all in all, solid night. Sacrifice was a good pay-per-view showing for those of us who pay for this subscription. I mean, it wasn't as good as No Surrender, but nevertheless, it still delivered and what it had to do for the next pay-per-view going forward and for the next TNA Impact. So until then, I'll holler at y'all again.